He's coming for me. Please, you have to hide me. Her voice was a shredded whisper, barely audible above the afternoon wind. Caleb Boone, a stoic rancher with eyes as cold as the Wyoming plains, opened his door to find a woman collapsing onto his porch. The world seemed to hold its breath. The only sound was the wind scraping dust against the boards of his isolated cabin. The woman, Elara, was bruised, trembling, her dress torn and streaked with blood and dirt. She lay crumpled at his threshold, the embodiment of desperation. Caleb stood over her, frozen between suspicion and something far more dangerous, mercy. Her cracked lips moved again. He'll kill me. Caleb glanced toward the empty horizon. No riders. No dust trails. Just the relentless sun and the faint smell of rain on the wind. And then he did something none of us expected. He knelt. Caleb, the man who'd built his life on silence and solitude, scooped her up with rough, work-scarred hands and carried her inside. Well, look at that, I whispered to you, dear listener. Trouble just knocked, and Mr. Tall, dark, and silent actually answered. He laid her on his cot, his movements careful but detached, the same precision he used mending fences or calming a spooked horse. The cabin smelled of pine smoke and old leather. The air felt heavy with storm and secrets. Elara gasped, words tumbling out between shallow breaths. He owns everything, the bank, the saloon, half this damned county. Said he'd kill me if I ever left. Her fear was palpable, her voice cracked and ragged. She clutched her torn dress to her chest, shivering. Caleb's jaw tightened. He didn't ask questions. He fetched water, tore strips from an old shirt, and began cleaning the cut above her eyebrow. He worked in silence, methodical, distant. Yet his hands, for all their size and strength, were gentle. And then he did something none of us expected. He stopped. His fingers brushed something solid beneath the folds of her skirt. Well, I murmured. A fainting damsel packing heat. Honey, this isn't a victim, this is a survivor. Caleb slipped his hand beneath the fabric and drew out an army-issue revolver, cold and gleaming even in the dim light. The air changed instantly. The cabin, once a haven, became a powder keg. Caleb's eyes hardened. A banker's wife doesn't carry military steel, he said flatly. Elara's gaze flicked up, fear flashing into defiance. You think I had a choice? Outside, the wind rose. Dust swirled. A storm was indeed coming. Caleb walked to the window, rifle within reach, scanning the horizon. And then he did something none of us expected. He saw riders. 2 of them. Moving fast. Looks like the party's about to start, I told you, smiling thinly. You might want to hit that subscribe button before the bullets fly. The riders approached, dust boiling around their horses. Caleb stepped out onto the porch, blocking the doorway. We're looking for a woman, the lead rider said, voice gruff, eyes sharp. Ran off from her husband. You seen anyone? Caleb's face was granite. No one's come by here. Behind him, Elara lay motionless on the cot, breath shallow. The lie stretched thin in the dry air. The second rider squinted past Caleb toward the cabin. His eyes narrowed. Mrs., he began, and then caught himself. But it was too late. Mrs. That single word landed like a hammer blow. Caleb's stomach twisted. Not the banker. The husband. Lies, 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 I sighed. You can't trust anyone in this town, darling. Not even the ones bleeding on your doorstep. The riders left, suspicion lingering in their wake. Dust settled over the yard, thick and choking. Inside, silence reigned. Caleb turned, the weight of realization heavy in his chest. He was harboring not a runaway but a fugitive. Elara lay still, eyes closed, perhaps praying. Caleb stepped closer, scanning the small cabin, searching for the truth. He lifted the blanket near her pillow. And then he did something none of us expected. He found a letter. Sealed with wax, his name written clear across the front. "Well, isn't this delicious?" I murmured. A letter to Caleb. Someone planned this little encounter. He broke the seal. The handwriting inside was wild, frantic, unmistakably hers. "Caleb, I need your help. My husband is Marshal Elias Thorne. He's closing in. I didn't run. I killed him." The world seemed to tilt. Caleb's pulse hammered in his ears. She hadn't fled a monster. She'd slain a lawman. I knew she was trouble, I whispered gleefully. But this, my friends, is premium-grade chaos. Caleb's hands trembled. His breath came shallow, almost ragged. He stared at Alara, her eyes now open, watching him. Not pleading. Daring. He could turn her in. End this madness. But something inside him, something reckless and buried, refused. He tore the letter to shreds and scattered the pieces into the dirt outside. His choice was made. And then he did something none of us expected. He reached for his rifle. The sound came before the sight, a single rider galloping hard through the dust. Caleb stepped onto the porch, rifle in hand, heart pounding. "Caleb." The voice cracked across the yard like a whip. "I know she's here. Give her up." The rider dismounted, Marshal Elias Thorne himself. Alive. The air between them quivered, hot with tension. The marshal's badge caught the sun. His hand rested on his pistol. Inside, Alara stirred. Her face drained of color. She slipped her hand under the pillow and drew a tiny derringer. Caleb felt her move but didn't turn. His eyes locked with the marshal's. "This doesn't have to end bad," Thorne said. "She's my wife. She's sick. Dangerous. You hand her over, and we'll both forget this." Behind him, a floorboard creaked. Caleb's voice came low and cold. "You're lying." Alara stepped into the doorway, her small pistol raised. "Don't," Caleb warned softly. But it was too late. 3 guns were drawn. 3 lives balanced on the razor's edge of a heartbeat. The marshal's eyes flicked toward Alara. Rage. Recognition. Fear. Caleb raised his rifle, not at the man, but at the dirt between them. He fired once. The shot exploded like thunder. Horses screamed. The marshal ducked. When the smoke cleared, Alara was gone. Only the smell of gunpowder and dust remained. The marshal stared at Caleb, jaw tight. "If she's here, I'll find her." Caleb said nothing. His silence was his answer. Thorne mounted his horse and rode off into the horizon, leaving behind only a trail of suspicion and dust. Inside the cabin, Caleb closed the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. The cot was empty. Her revolver was gone. And then he did something none of us expected. He smiled, just barely. The secret he'd buried, the lie he'd chosen, had bound them both. Alara Thorne was still out there. Alive. Dangerous. Free. And Caleb Boone, the man of silence, was now her unwitting shield. Because out here on the edge of the frontier, silence wasn't peace. It was protection. And he'd just sworn his with blood.